Chapter 3, Part 2. And how we're going to begin is a little review. Let's see how good your memories are. Probably better than mine. In the stage of Bhajanagriya, so there's 5 questions. This is just like help you digest your lunch or breakfast. 2 results from Bhajana Kriya when it's properly performed. 1. 2 results. 1. Raise your hand. Someone raise your hand. Kleshagni. And that means? Your voice is too soft.
Removal of the inauspicious things.
Sufferings, yeah. Okay. And who would like to volunteer the second one? You'd like to volunteer the second one? They're both enthusiastic. Go ahead.
Shubhada.
Subhada. Subhada.
Shubhada.
Subhada. The da means to give. They give Shubha. Shubha means?
Auspicious.
Auspiciousness. Would you like some auspiciousness? Bhakti. Bhajana Kriya. Okay, someone else. Yeah, I'm going to ask you to answer this question. It's a different question. Please give a little definition, short one, of anishtata, Bhajana Kriya. Anishtata?
Bhajan Kriya which is not properly performed.
Unsteady. Unsteady. So explain it a little bit, a little more than that. Expand.
It is It is successful, but not complete.
Yeah, but it's a little more than that. You said that, you're just saying the same thing again. What makes it unsteady? What makes Bhajana Kriya anishtata? What is it? Yes, you know. It starts with an A.
Anarthas.
Okay. You want to add something to this? Raise your hand. Go ahead.
Sometimes in the unsteady stage, the devotee might fall victim to the senses.
So just drill on it a little bit more. What are the causes, the sources of that unsteadiness?
Maybe sometimes the Shraddha might be a little weak.
Huh?
Or maybe the Shraddha might be a little weak.
Yeah. And when the Shraddha is a little weak, then what happens?
Then
The cause of unsteadiness. Don't look around your shoulder. Think of what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur taught us.
weakness of heart, Hridaya Dorbalyam.
Yeah. So where does that Hridaya Dorbalyam arise from?
Anarthas.
Okay. I can see that if we had a Bhakti Shastri exam, you all wouldn't get an A in your exam. But this isn't an exam. This is preparing you for what's coming after. You're going to do the application part. Okay. But it's coming up, coming attractions. Get ready. He's gentle. He's more gentle than me. Okay. Next question. What's the main topic of chapter 3? You got your hand up. You got your hand up for everything. Go ahead. Chapter 3.
Removal of anarthas.
Anartha nivritti, removal of anarthas. Describe that a little bit, please, for us.
Basically, when you listen to classes and then do bhakti under the guidance of your spiritual master, a qualified one, and then after that you get initiated, and then
Yeah, but okay, but that's steps in the bhajana kriya. Specifically, this is anartha nivritti. Anartha nivritti. Describe anartha. What's the definition of anartha? First of all.
unwanted things.
Oh, and what are things that are unwanted as opposed to wanted things?
Something like a passing away of a loved one.
Okay. Well, something that is an obstacle for you achieving the purpose of life. If you don't know the purpose of life, everything's an obstacle. But if you know the purpose, then there's something that's blocking, an obstacle for achieving that purpose of life. That's something unwanted. And anartha nivritti is removing those things. Largely those things are not, they're defined as something that's within, not necessarily something that's out. Okay. Who's ready for the next one? You're going to ask one at a time. One of the four. So you're right next to you. There she is. One.
Anarthas from past pious activities.
Past pious activities. So to give a little description, briefly describe past pious activities. How can that be an obstacle, an anartha?
Some people might be too much attached to following some austerities, following certain austerities which are not devotional.
Trying to become the enjoyer of those fruits of pious activities. But there's different categories of fruits of pious activities that people may want to be the enjoyer of. So,
Going to heavenly planets or mystic siddhis.
There we go. So asat, Trishna is the headline, and then there's categories. So trying to be the enjoyer of the asat features that come from pious activities, which include sense objects, heavenly destination, mystic cities.
5 kinds of liberation.
Very good. You got a good score on your Bhakti Shastri too. Okay, that was one. Arising of obstacles, anarthas, that arise from pious activities. There's 3 more. Who wants to raise their hand? I'm a little difficult person to deal with, so maybe you don't want to raise your hand. Yes, over there. I did no eye contact, so she raised her hand.
Desire for liberation.
Desire for liberation. That's a subset of the Asat Trishna. So that's a subset of Asat Trishna. That's pious activities and fruits of pious activities. So what about sinful activities? The fruits of sinful activities. That's another one, right? So could you describe that a little bit? What did Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur tell us about that?
Fruits of sinful activities?
Yeah, that's one of the sources of unwanted things in the heart. That's one of the 4. Oh, come on. Go ahead, prompt her.
The 5 kleshas.
Okay. So pious activities, sinful activities. Number 3. She's got her hand up. Because we're going to go to number 4 this afternoon.
Obstacles from devotional service.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And then there were some subcategories of those. Seva aparad, Vaishnava aparad, Jiva aparad, and then our dear friend, nama-aparadhas. So nama-aparadhas is the most difficult. That's the last question amongst the sources. Offenses against the name. So here's our chart. You've seen this chart many times. So bhajana kriya is towards the bottom. And then those 6 categories of unsteadiness, which you're going to hear and discuss a little bit during your breakout session. Going up from bhajana kriya, anarthas vritti, that's chapter 3. And then those 4 categories which we just covered on either side of anarthas vritti. Now we're going to go up, heading towards, but we're not going to get there yet. That's another class. Nishtha. But chapter 3 is in that, right in the center, anarthas vritti. So we've seen this chart, so I'm going to go through it quickly. But the one that has the box around it, that's nama-aparadhas, and that's where our focus is going for this afternoon's session. Now, it's a whole class or 2 or 3 to go through the 10 offenses against the holy name. So this isn't 2 or 3 classes on that, but it's just touching on the topic as Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur does. Nama-aparadhas is the most important amongst the 4. And amongst the 4, number 1 is in the number 1 position. What's that number 1? Sadhu Ninda. That's what those 2 ladies at the bottom are doing. Offense against the devotees of the Lord that is done with animosity. These are Vishwanath's words. Criticism, animosity, malice, and drawing from Hari Bhakti Vilas, because Hari Bhakti Vilas was written before Madhurya Kadambini was written, so he's drawing from Hari Bhakti Vilas. Paramam aparadham sadhuninda namaha namnaha paramam aparadha. Public criticism of a sadhu causes the greatest aparad in relation to nama. Why? Is there a reason why? It doesn't have to be a reason why, but there is a reason why. And the explanation given by Vishwanath is because it's the sadhu who makes the holy name celebrated and honored and revered. Of course, behind that sadhu there's Krishna. But so sadhu ninda, most serious amongst the 10 offenses. So we're going to have a whole section on sadhu ninda. Or here, it's Vaishnav ninda, criticism of Vaishnav. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote an article, not a book, called Vaishnava Ninda. And he drew from a book named Nama-tattva Ratna Mala. And there's the 2 verses that he quotes. It's like from this article that he wrote. And then the translation of those 2 verses. Those 3 types of faults of devotees. 1, faults that were seen in them before bhakti arose. 2, those that are remaining in them in minor degrees as they're being cleansed through bhakti. And 3, there are 3 types of faults. Those rare faults that arise accidentally in them due to capital P providence. So this article is drawing from Nama-tattva Ratna Mala. They should never be deliberated upon by anyone at any point in time. Anyone who deliberates upon the faults of Vaishnavas without a genuine reason, or deliberates upon them simply for the sake of spreading rumors, should be understood to be a despicable critic of sadhus. Whew. Watch out. And it does go on, doesn't it? According to Hari Bhakti Vilas, they have 6 categories. Hati, that's assault or kill a Vaishnava. Nindati, that's our topic. Needlessly critique or gossip about a Vaishnava. Nindati. Envy, dveshti. To not properly greet a Vaishnava. To not properly greet a Vaishnava. To not properly greet a Vaishnava. It's in the category of offense to a Vaishnava. To become angry upon a Vaishnava who is not one's disciple means if you have to some disciples, you have a license. But when the license is acted upon, it's for elevation, just like Narada Muni did with Nalakuvara and Manigriva. He gave them the benediction that they would see Krishna after 100 celestial years and be restored. And their offense was completely gone. So it wasn't, it may have looked like out of malice, but it wasn't. It was benediction to A and B. Relieve them of their intoxicated, their prideful, intoxicated state. And 2, give them Krishna's direct audience. And number 6, to not exhibit happiness on seeing Vaishnavas. Now I'm just thinking, as I'm reading this, I'm thinking, when I was in Chicago at the temple, after the class, a lady came, an elderly lady came, and I didn't comment, but I was going to comment, you look really unhappy. She was really unhappy. Her husband had been in a coma, living on life support for some number of years. Who knows that number of years? Something more than 20 years. And there was in the family some debate. Should we just unplug him and let him go? And no, if there's some hope. And so they had hope against hope, and he died. And he was a very devoted person. And, she looked really sad. Really sad. Oof. But devotees had gone to their home regularly throughout all those years without naming names and had kirtan and did, although he was in a comatose state, the soul is still conscious, otherwise he would have been gone. So, but very covered state of consciousness, state of comatose. So they had kirtan because he couldn't acknowledge anything. He couldn't speak. Anyway, and before that happened, he was very devoted, very very excellent Vaishnava. And she also. But she wasn't like Krishna let her down, but she was very sad at the loss of her husband, who for so many years was in a coma, like almost gone. So when I saw her, she looked so sad. I mean, she like bleak. And the whole time we had some discussion, the whole time the same facial expressions, which means the face is the index to the mind. She was sad, deeply sad. So my service was I understood my service was to encourage her to think where her husband is now instead of where he was for 20-some years in coma. He was very fixed in his bhakti, very fixed. So be happy for him. He's in a better situation than he was for so long. And for sure, because of his devotion. And she nodded, She was still, sad face, but she heard it. She didn't become joyful, but anyway, exhibiting happiness is an external, but the real thing of the happiness in seeing a Vaishnava is inside that Vaishnava, inside this lady whose face was very sad because her mind was very sad. There's bhakti. So she's, in another circumstance, who knows what it'll take, but in another circumstance, she's a joyful devotee of Kishore Kishori, very devoted, as was her husband. So she'll be in a better place as she can be encouraged. So the happiness that we show towards such people is to encourage them see Krishna behind the misfortune. Okay, so this is on the topic of sadhu ninda, and here's a fellow that doesn't look like a sadhu. Some Padma Purana says, even a sinful person with all bad qualities who lacks proper behavior is wicked, fallen, and deceitful. Is liberated if he takes shelter of the lotus feet of Govinda. And commentary says, if such an ill-behaved person is in fact devoted to the Lord, he is to be known as a sadhu. So sadhu is not just the outside, not just the dress. Here's a fellow that's got the right dress. A sadhu is any devotee. Even if ill-behaved, not only a pure devotee is a sadhu. And if there's an offense made, then there's a remedy. This is in Hari Bhakti Vilas, but it's also in our Madhurya Kadambini. Step by step, you start with taking shelter of that sadhu. Supposing the sadhu doesn't move by your taking shelter, explicitly seek forgiveness. Supposing he doesn't give us forgiveness, ask again. Make some attempt to please that sadhu. If for some reason the sadhu is unforgiving, we must not demote them in our minds to a non-sadhu status due to the fact that they are not forgiving us. Well, he wasn't a sadhu anyways. Because the sadhu is forgiving and he's not forgiving, so he's not a sadhu. This way, trivialize the offense we made. If you're unsuccessful after many, many attempts, then you take shelter of the holy name, rather than taking shelter of the holy name as the janitor that's going to clean up your offense. Failing to approach the Vaishnava, thinking they're exalted, nor did ask, that compound the offense. This is Vishwanath in this section, pointing out a defect in one who has been offended, doesn't minimize the offense. Dust of a Mahabhagavata's feet may not forgive, even if the sadhu is forgiving. Therefore, take shelter of their feet. It's like there's a lot on this, because it's the numero uno, the number one offense, and there's a lot written about number one offense. Blaspheming a saintly person is deadly. I'm going to read it. It's nice. The first offense is to criticize and blaspheme the devotees. Blasphemy, in this context, means to be envious of and antagonistic towards the saintly devotee. If one even accidentally commits this offense against a Vaishnava, he must bitterly repent his low behavior. Just as poison is counteracted by poison, similarly, the offender, having set aflame his spiritual life with blasphemy, must be purified by the fire of contrition. Poetic. Here's what the same message, you said, rather than reading it all, it's the same message. Oh, how shameful! I blasphemed to Vaishnava. I shall suffer millions of years in the fire of hell with heavy heart. The aparadhi must then take complete shelter of the holy name and chant incessantly, knowing that this is his only hope. So that's Vishwanath. And here's Jiva Goswami. In the same context, or the context is different, but the same message. This is this Bhagavad Gita, Apichet Sudaracharo verse. And then the following verse, Chipram Bhavati Dharma Ma. Here's his commentary on this topic. The verse Apichet Sudarachara is meant for exclusively highlighting the fault of criticizing a one-pointed sadhu free from all previous sinful tendencies. He attained lasting peace only after becoming a dharmatma, a saintly soul purified from all abominable tendencies. And of course, there's the Krishna factor who helps one come to that position. Now here's our sadhu friend again. And we're going to hear again from Vishwanath the context of sadhu ninda has this characteristic of upalakshana. Upalakshana, for the fifth time, means you say one word and the one word implies many other words without saying the many other words, because there's a sequence, one connected to the next one, connected to the next one. So rather than saying them all each time, you just say the one. And sadhu ninda, according to this statement of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, through upalakshate, the term ninda automatically includes all the 10 categories of aparad, such as envy towards a sadhu, causing harm to a sadhu, because they line up. They're in alignment with. Ninda, sadhu, ninda. So it's all of them, all the things that all the 9 types of bhakti, they can free one from sin, and ninda is any one of them. It's often spoken of in terms of sadhu ninda, but it's all of them. Okay, moving on. That was offense number 1. And lots of finger shaking about offense number 1. Beware. Number 3, this isn't all 10 offenses. Again, it's just highlighting some of the points made by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. As it's an offense to blaspheme sadhus, it's an offense to blaspheme the Guru. He specifically writes, not chanting the mantras given by the Guru and not practicing devotion according to his instructions is offensive, since it is neglectful. So don't get a guru because you might make an offense, right? That's not the right answer. When you get a guru, when Krishna sends someone so qualified, then you take shelter. And not, for a few days. And then say, Hari Bol, see you later. Don't do that. It's offensive. Here's a nice example. This is from Brihat Bhagavatamrita. This is a painting of Gopa Kumar, the young boy, the cowherd boy Gopa Kumar, receiving mantra from his guru. And in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, Gopa Kumar says, for fear of being ungrateful, I never gave up my japa. His faithfulness to his japa was tested in different ways. Sometimes, like a rubber band, you stretch it, and how far can it stretch? So different circumstances were tempting him, even explicitly tempting him. What are you chanting for? This is in Tapaloka. Anyway, without all the detail, and I can retell. He was faithful to his guru because being unfaithful would be ungrateful. Without having bothered to receive all the mantra's benefits, how could Gopakumar properly acknowledge them? Very reasonable, right? It's our Thanksgiving message. Become a realized devotee, and then you have the capacity for what you're giving thanks for. If you don't have realization, then at least you should have strive to hear conceptually and theoretically what the benefit of deity worship or being in the holy dham or chanting the holy name or reading Srimad Bhagavatam, at least conceptually, and then stay with it. Now, offense, here's an example of both sadhu ninda and guru ninda, and that's Dvidvida. Some of you know who Dvidvida was. He got finished after a certain point in time. Balaram smashed him. But before Balaram smashed him, way back in previous yugas, he was a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra. He and his brother, Minda, were great devotees, but he became a demon. And how did he become a demon? Offense. What was his offense? He offended Lakshmana. So Lakshmana is certainly a devotee, but more than a devotee, his relationship with Ramachandra was like that of a guru. He gave Lord Ramachandra, he gave instructions on how to become properly situated in relationship with Ramachandra. Lakshmana is like Nityananda or Balaram. Nityananda unto Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Balaram unto Krishna. Lakshmana unto Lord Ramachandra, the Guru Tattva, principle embodied in Lakshmana. So offending Lakshmana was a big problem. That problem was that the offense resulted in his being susceptible to bad association, Narakasura, and in bad association he became bad. And then he was not only bad, he wanted revenge against Krishna. Anyways, without all the history, he became a very bad person because of offense to Lakshmana, just by disrespecting Lakshmana. So that's offense number 3, Guru Aparadha. Offense number 2 is considering demigods to be equal to Krishna. Now there's a nice long section, and I'm not going to go into all of it, but in terms of living entities, there's 2 categories: covered and those that aren't covered. And those that aren't covered, there's 2. Those influenced by the opulence of the Supreme, those influenced by, not influenced by the opulence, but influenced by the sweetness, Madhurya. And then other than jivas, there's Shiva Tattva and Vishnu Tattva. And to consider that either Shiva Tattva or the 2 categories of jivas to be equal to Vishnu, that's an offense. Hari Bhaktivilas states, one who considers Brahma, Shiva, and other demigods at an equal level with Lord Narayana is certainly an atheist. That was number 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going forward to number 4, disrespecting the Vedas. And some people may disrespect the Vedas because, well, They just deal with karma kanda. And karma kanda is not the essence of the minimizing the Vedas because they don't deal directly with bhakti. Rather than seeing the Vedas are from Narayan, so you don't offend Narayan, because if you offend the Vedas, you offend Narayan. So don't offend Narayan. But recognize it's for people that don't want to take shelter of Krishna, so they can become elevated. So it's indirect. How to nullify? Praise the Vedas. And praise those who are practicing according to the Vedas. It doesn't mean you have to practice as they practice, but you honor what they're doing because you honor the Vedas, because you honor Narayan, who is the source of the Vedas. Additional offenses. Number 7, sinning on the strength of chanting. I don't think devotees do this so much. There may be some devotees that do this. I don't know. I don't know them. Sinning on this namo bhalad yashahi papa buddhi iti. Papa buddhi. Papa buddhi. It's bad intelligence. In the verse that we just recited, the term nama, here we are again, upalakshana, for all the additional acts of bhakti that destroy papa. Don't sin on the strength of any one of the other besides the chanting of the holy name. 10th offense. I hope you feel happy because we're almost done with all this negative stuff. You're ready to be pure devotees with defenseless chanters, right? So this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur describing not being attached to or attentive to the holy name in spite of hearing its glories as the 10th offense. This is the root of the other 9 offenses. So make sure you take care of this one, because it's at the root of the other 9. And he writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Harinam Chintamani, from distraction, all types of inattention are born. If one has attraction for enjoying the temporary, one will surely be inattentive to the holy name. But Lord Chaitanya said, I have no attraction. So if he doesn't have attraction and I don't have attraction, I'm in good company. No, sorry. He's speaking like that to edify us because he gives the solution in the Shikshastaka just after the one where he says you have no attraction. Now, some embellishments to this topic, and I think we're going to conclude. Many of you may know, maybe all of you know, Bharat Maharaj attained Bhava Bhakti, and he fell. So wait a minute. If you achieve Bhava Bhakti, you can fall? Wait a minute. Because in the stage of Bhava Bhakti, you're squeaky clean. The anarthas are gone. And that is the signal or the entitlement, the adhikar for coming to Bhava stage. And he was in the Bhava stage. And then our acharyas describe, listen carefully because it's short, but it's because of aparad. Here we go. When Bharat Maharaj was younger, he left home, his wife, the kingdom, all his opulence, went to live in the forest to become absorbed in devotion to the personality of Godhead. Specifically, the Bhagavatam says he went to Haridwar. Haridwar is a popular place to go if you want liberation. We went there. We didn't get liberation. We were already liberated because we were engaged in devotional service. Yay. But he was a devotee. Then he went to Haridwar, Pulaha Ashram, along the Gandaki River, one of the rivers in Haridwar, and he was absorbed to the point of Bhava Bhakti. And he, as you see from the painting, he worshipped Surya Narayan. Surya Narayana, not just Surya, but Surya Narayana. However, when he was doing this Surya Narayan worship, he did other things that would help elevate and purify. And when he was doing these other things, he became attached to a deer. There's this story, 5th canto. He's a king. And he heard, while he's in the forest, he heard this loud roar of a lion. Not too loud, but... And someone else heard that roar too. That was a deer, a female deer, who was on the other side of the river, and she was panicked when she heard the lion roar, and she jumped. And as she jumped, the pregnancy fell into the river. A little fawn, little baby deer fell into the river. And she died. The river carried her away. And the king saw this. And so he took care as the king, looking after his dependents as the king, he took care of the little fawn, little baby deer. And there's nothing wrong with all of that, except as he went on taking care of the deer, his mind went away from his practice, as you see the painting here. He's doing yajnas, and he's paying more attention to the deer. And sometimes he'd stop in the middle of the yajna and go and fondle the deer and talk to the deer and, oh, my dear. And he, in course of time, his spiritual practice diminished, and he made a choice, Bhagavatam describes it, conscious choice, to desist from his spiritual practice in favor of the deer. So here's the Bhagavatam verse. Bharat Maharaj was overwhelmed by an uncontrollable desire which was manifest in the form of the deer. Due to the fruitive results of his past deeds, means aparad. We'll hear. He fell down from mystic yoga, austerity, and worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If it were not due to his past activity, how could he have been attracted to the deer after giving up the association of his own son and family, considering them stumbling blocks on the path of spiritual life? How could he show uncontrollable affection for a deer? This was definitely due to his past karma or offense. And you know how it happened. As one evening, as he was accustomed to making sure that the deer had meal, the deer didn't come for his meal. And so he went looking for the deer. And when he went looking for the deer, he went too close to the edge of the cliff and he fell off and crashed in the rocks below, thinking of, guess who? The deer. And so when the soul left the body, Bharat Maharaj became a Krishna conscious deer. He never forgot Krishna. Bhakti Sandarbha commentary on this. Ordinary fruitive activity, plural, are not strong enough to create such an impediment in the path of devotional service. Therefore, the fruitive activities mentioned here must have been offenses performed in a previous birth. In this way, King Bharata is like King Indradumna and other devotees that committed offenses. Now, it doesn't give the history of King Indradumna, but many of you know. King Bharata's willful neglect of bhakti due to a past offense resulted in his over-attachment to the deer. thus fall down. Okay, so conclusion, aparadha is very serious business. We need devotee association, imperative. And we need to not offend the devotees, imperative. We need devotee association and we need to not offend devotees. It's kind of a narrow margin, isn't it? But it's both are needed. Both are needed. We can take devotee association and be a little casual with offenses, right? Not a good idea. So we need devotee association and we need to carefully guard against offenses, because that's offense number 1 in the 10 offenses against the holy name. Whew. We're nearing a conclusion of chapter 3. So there's these 4: Seva aparad, Vaishnava aparad, Jiva aparad, nama-aparadhas. And according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there are degrees of eradication of these 4 types of anarthas. And there's nice Sanskrit terms for each of them, up to the point of absolute. So several times we're going to see charts that show the absolute nature. Check it out. Here's the absolute nature. Krishna's lotus feet is listed at the bottom, beyond prema. What's that? What's beyond prema? Wait a minute, I thought there's 9 stages of bhakti, and here there's 10. What's number 10? That's a good question. And the answer to that question is, for those who have given up material body with prema, that person becomes qualified for the spiritual world with a spiritual body without the limitations imposed by material body. So prema exists in those that are in the spiritual world and those that are in the material world who have attained love of Krishna, or love for the personality of Godhead, with the material body or beyond the material body. No longer in a material body. Now, last but not least, there was a question that came up. Is he here? Amalanam, is he here? Yeah, okay. You asked a question about Dhruva's offense. So we're going to go through that. I researched it. Did you research it also? I did. I had nothing else to do, so... We talked about King Chitraketu, and his fall down was apparent only. So a little more than what we said yesterday. He had 10 million wives. He had more wives than Krishna had. And it was for one reason. He wanted a son. So it wasn't meant to happen, but he wanted a son anyways. And so Angira Muni visited his ashram, and he said, "No, give me a son, give me a son." So an arrangement was made that his chief queen, number 1 of the 10 million, could have a son. But the result was that 9,999,999 queens that didn't have a son were envious. No. Yes. And because the king was giving so much attention to wife number 1, they decided to poison the child. That's what they did. And when they poisoned the child, that's what this painting shows. There's, in the blue royal attire, that's King Chitraketu when he came running, and there's Angira and Narada. Narada has this uncanny ability just to like zoom in at the right time, the right place, and say all the right things. He's really a special bhakta. So he invited the son. Your father is lamenting, please come back. And the son sat up and started speaking just to Narada. Like, why do you want me to be with my father, but who's my father? I've had how many fathers? This father, that father, the other father. I was just with my original father. I'm going back. See you later. I mean, short version. And he laid back down. So after Chitraketu's son departed in this way, Narada gave Chitraketu a mantra for worshipping Lord Sankarshan. And he worshipped Lord Sankarshan to the point where Sankarshan appeared before him and he had conversation with Lord Sankarshan. A little different than lamenting over the loss of his son. And after he achieved that spiritual perfection, an arrangement was made so he could then become a king in a higher planetary region, Vidyadhara Loka. So there he was, perfect soul in Vidyadhara Loka, zooming around here and there in this vimana that had, all kinds of opulences and queens and so many other things from the Vidyadhara planet. And he just happened to pass over Mount Kailash, and he saw, as we see in the painting, there's the Vimana, and there's Lord Shiva sitting with sages, including Narada Muni and others, and there's Parvati on his lap. So he leaned over the side of his Vimana and said, "Hey, Lord Shiva." And Parvati thought she was insulting. He was insulting Lord Shiva. So he cursed him. So it was a misunderstanding. But when he did become a demon, he had full remembrance of everything. Not just who he was. He had fully Krishna conscious. So the apparent fall down, that's what we heard. Then the apparent fall down of Jai and Vijay was they were cursed by the four Kumaras to become demons, 3 lifetimes as demons. But it was their arrangement, or the Lord's arrangement for them, because they had prayed to the Lord for the opportunity to be in chivalrous rasa with him. So it was an apparent fall down, and sure enough, they returned back to their position. Here's a very nice painting. There's Jai and Vijay checking the Kumaras, and we only see 2 of them, but there's 4 of them. And then the background, that's Lord Narayan, who was very sorry to see his dear devotees being cursed. There's the 4 little guys on the right. And there's the gatekeepers. So now the question, yesterday's question that I researched, make sure I get the question right. Can the apparent fall down of Chitraketu and Jai and Vijay be compared to the uncontrolled anger exhibited against the Yakshas by Dhruva? That's the question. So, 2 answers. I couldn't find anything from our acharyas that commented on it at all. But I did find in the BBT purport the answer to this question. The answer to this question reads as follows. Dhruva Maharaj is becoming angry, overwhelmed with grief, and envious of the enemies. Was not incompatible with his position as a great devotee. It is a misunderstanding that a devotee should not be angry, envious, or overwhelmed by lamentation. Dhruva Maharaj was the king, and when his brother was unceremoniously killed, it was his duty to take revenge against the Yakshas. He was not in the same platform. He was just doing his duty. And the last 2 slides, it's the same we saw yesterday, but it's describing this upper range of bhakti. The manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality Godhead who is residing in everyone's heart, just as the waters of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean. Boy, when we went to Badrinath, I mean, I saw pictures of it, but when we went there and saw it, it was astonishing. You know where the Ganges comes from? It comes from a hole in a mountain. And this river comes gushing out of the hole in the mountain and flows down and connects with other tributaries of the Ganges and becomes a big Ganges. But where it starts, way up in Badrinath, you know, you can't touch it, but you can almost touch it. Water just keeps coming out and gushes. And, you know, where's that water coming from? It's not just a melting glacier, because after some time the glacier is going to melt. And how long has the Ganges been doing what it's doing? It's not just melting water from a glacier. Where's it coming from? We know where it's coming from. Oh, that's just a story. Tell me where it's coming from, please. And so it's way up, way up, and then it keeps down, 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 down. So as the Ganges keeps flowing down, down, down towards the sea, similarly, the mind of a devotee, just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean, such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. Unadulterated devotional service. Because the topic of Madhurya Kadambini is bhakti, and bhakti is unmixed. Bhakti is unadulterated, it's unmixed. So it's always flowing and flowing and flowing. And unwanted things in the heart can't stop it. They can impede it, but it can't stop it. And then the removal of those anarthas by bhakti itself, and then it's something else. The experience, subjective experience, is something else. One last slide and we're ready to end. Oh, Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, that my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Queen Kunti to Krishna. Pure devotee. Unalloyed pure devotion. End of chapter 3. How are we doing with time? We have 20 minutes. Isn't that nice? So there's time for some discussion. Let's see how it goes. We have a microphone? Put your hand up one more time.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the nice class. What anarthas, are there any anarthas that get...
Any other what?
Any anarthas
Oh yeah, there's more coming.
that are addressed with nama-aparadhas? Does nama-aparadhas address any anarthas, means remove any of the anarthas?
Oh yeah.
Can you elaborate more on?
Yeah. Nama-aparadhas has the power to eradicate prarabdha karma. And then there's this big warehouse of karma that hasn't fructified yet. Aprarabdha karma. Tick, 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 tick. And then some of those aprarabdha karmas start to manifest. So nama-aparadhas can eradicate prarabdha karma. And then there's this tendency of both pious and impious, because in the material world, both pious, impious, and mixed, tendency is subtly within the heart. So that's a big stockpile. The nama-aparadhas doesn't completely take care of that big stockpile, or the big, I'm calling it the warehouse. Not to be experienced in this lifetime, but tendency, inclination towards being the enjoyer of the temporary, asat trishna.
One more question. Is there any difference between aparadh and offense? Are they synonymous?
One's an English word and the other is a Sanskrit word.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I have few questions, but they are quick ones. Shruti, in one of the slides, Shruti don't mention bhakti directly. Is there a reason for that? It doesn't mention bhakti directly because Shruti is the basis of all the other scriptures.
It's indirect. It's implicit. It's not explicit. Just like this whole presentation got started with Taittiriya Upanishad. Mm-hmm. And that's in the category of Shrutis. But it's implicit. And most people don't, excavate what's implicit. They take whatever they take according to their heart's orientation or their, goal of life orientation. But it's there, but it's implicit, so it's not explicit. And so some persons poo-poo the Vedas because it doesn't glorify the personality of Godhead adequately.
So is there a reason why it's implicit and not explicit?
Yeah, because there's different types of people.
Okay. So
it includes everything. It includes everything. And it takes a qualified person to excavate from the implied, so not everyone's qualified. So those that have a qualified teacher, some persons have a qualified teacher that can excavate. So it depends on the teacher. And within the teaching, excavated by the teacher, there's everything. Not everybody, it's the same thing. Why doesn't everybody understand Krishna? Because they don't want to. They're not engaged in bhakti, and so they although, just take Bhagavad Gita, it's explicit.
Yes.
Here's some verses, and it's explicit. They don't get it.
Yeah.
Even when it's explicit.
In Upasana Kanda of Vedas, what's mentioned in Upasana Kanda of Vedas?
The large part of it is, as you know, Karma Kanda. There's worship besides the philosophy. There's worship, procedures of worship for getting stuff, necessities of life, and all kinds of things that aren't even necessities. And there's worship connected with that, and the procedures of worship that's in that section.
In the Upasana Kanda?
Yeah, that's what Upasana means, worship.
Okay. Because
there's philosophical foundation, and then there's the practical activity, and they go together. But the philosophical foundation has special reverence in the world, especially for people who are Gyanis or Brahmanas, because it's the foundation, whether you worship or don't worship.
My next question is about attention. I always kind of think about it and try to go deeper. What constitutes inattention and attention? Because
it's a big range. Big range. It's explicit and implicit. But you've got the microphone near your mouth, and and I'm listening. But supposing that's inattention. And I'm thinking about whatever I'm thinking about. And you're speaking, and I'm not being fully attentive. Now, in many cases, for some reason, when you use that microphone, I can hear clearly. And some people, when they use the same microphone, I can't understand what they're saying. I'm getting older. That's my excuse, anyways. Blame it on the sound system. That's another one. But it's not inattention. So inattention is your attention goes elsewhere when you're engaged in something. Supposing you're cooking, not just hearing a class, you're cooking. And while you're cooking, you're thinking of who knows what. The 18 things that are waiting for you after you're cooking. And you're being inattentive to the cooking, and you may burn the cooking. Or undercook it, or whatever, because you're not being attentive. So attention goes elsewhere. That's inattention, and it's a kind of disrespect. To say the opposite, respect someone or something that you respect. You're attentive.
So what I gather from your answer is it's internal.
Yes.
And
it drives the external.
Yes.
What's inside comes outside.
Yes. And it's possibly intentional.
Possibly, and perhaps just distracted.
Okay. Because I see some senior devotees, sometimes they're looking here and there, but I know that they are very attentive while they're chanting, because internally they are doing, so that's why I asked that question.
Yeah, be careful when evaluating another devotee.
Yeah, it's just curiosity.
But be careful.
Yeah.
Because we don't like, we don't that aparadh zone. We don't like that stuff.
Yeah. Just for my knowledge. So my third question is the qualities. Now, of course, as devotees, we should always be very careful, looking at other devotees. But eyes and intelligence do see things, and they see different colors. They see blue, black, white, gray, all those colors.
And what colors you see is going to be different than what I see, is different than everyone else in the room sees, although it's the same object.
Yeah.
Because our eyes are different.
Yeah.
And the mind's different.
Yes.
Same color.
Yeah.
Therefore?
So my question is, the way I handle it, that, a devotee has good qualities, and devotees may have not so good qualities. But in the end, my focus goes to good qualities.
Well, your focus goes to bhakti.
Yeah.
And that's the good quality. Even if the other qualities are not there yet.
Yes.
You look to the one.
Yes.
Not just the good quality, they smile.
Yeah.
Or they know how to greet people, like this one. They know how to greet people nicely. I know people how to greet people nicely, but their heart's not so pure. Mm-hmm. So it's a mode of goodness, but not necessarily bhakti. So they have some polish. It's the material asset. It doesn't tell everything about what's inside.
Yeah.
So what's inside is important, not just a good quality.
Okay.
And I try to see the good qualities. That's nice.
Yeah.
But it's not adequate.
Yes. Yeah. Very nice point. My last kind of curiosity question.
I'll give a little example. Sorry to do this. That's the preamble. Once upon a time, I was in Gita Nagari, and there's a godbrother named Sureshwara Prabhu, Prabhupada disciple. Sura Ishwara, Sureshwara, nice devotee. And his service in Gita Nagari was, he took he did Food for All or Food for Life or something, and had a truck, and he went to homes and met people that didn't have very much, and he brought nice prasadam, and he was very, he's very charming personality. One morning, he gave a verse. He gave a Bhagavatam class on the verse, Yasyasti Bhagavati Kinchana, Sarvayur Ganesh Tatra. So his explanation, whole class, I know lots of people, they have good qualities, and they're not devotees. Jayadvaita Swami gave that class the next morning. He didn't know that Sureshwar already gave a verse, and he just did a flip opposite. No good qualities. Harava Bhaktasya Kotoma Hadguna. Woo! That's Jayadvaita Swami for you. And he didn't know that Sureshwar gave class the morning previous on the same verse and said the opposite. So the Bhagavatam is Supreme Court. Topmost conclusion, evidence, means of knowing anything. So we go by that.
Bhakti.
Bhakti. And the teachings of Bhakti.
Yes.
Within the Bhagavatam. Now, are you done?
Just the last quick question is 10 million wives.
10 million?
Wives. How does intelligence process this in Kali Yuga? And a person like me, how, and the next and the comment related to that is, when he had 10 million wives and no son, nobody thought that the problem was in the king, not in the queens.
No, they didn't think that. That's another thing. How are you to understand? Here's what I'm going to do. You remind me after class, please, by sending a text message, and I'll send you a little document on the 10 quadrillion bodyguards of Ugrasena, and how many cows, not just 16, anyway, these fantastic numbers, and how do you deal with these fantastic numbers? You're specifically asking 10 million queens, but I'm expanding it to like fantastic numbers. And nowhere did it say it wasn't the fault of the queens. It was, they didn't say, it's the real question. He just was blind. He was, the point is, super attached. In principle, I'm the king. I have to have an heir to the throne. I have to have a son, not just a daughter. I have to have a son. So that was his obsession. That's that point. And then the other point, how are these fantastic numbers? After the class, remind me, I'll send you this little document.
Sure, Maharaj.
The source is Hari Parshad Prabhu, and someone else who we collaborated with. He gave their initials. I don't know who that is, but how to understand these fantastic numbers.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. We're almost out of time. You have 8 minutes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. From the previous class, in the previous class you showed this slide on Gajendra.
On which one?
Gajendra.
Gajendra.
Yeah. It was written that it was on the prayer of it was written that he prayed for to be freed from material conception of life, and the discussion was that devotees not desiring mukti.
Yeah.
So, can you differentiate what he prayed is not related to desire of mukti?
Yeah, because the desire for liberation, the emphasis is, I want out of here. This place is crazy. Too much kleshas. Too much suffering. This and that and the other. Adhyatmika, adhidaivika, adhibautika. I want no more suffering, please. those who are devotees, they get birth after birth, birth after birth. I mean, it's not only Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's devotees. They don't desire just to be free from the conception that happiness is in terms of the temporary, including the conception of liberation, the desire for liberation. It's in the Asat Trishna category. It's not Krishna Trishna, it's liberation Trishna or Moksha Trishna. Does that help?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
Do you think about it?
Yes.
6 minutes and counting. Anything else? Okay. Is somebody checking online? Where's you checking online? No. Okay. Go ahead.
So Maharaj, how to improve the desire to chant, Maharaj?
Oh, sadhu sangha. The how to question is sadhu sangha. Answer.
But on a daily
You want me to
basis,
elaborate? Okay. How does bhakti begin? And when you understand how bhakti begins, you'll understand the answer to your question. So bhakti begins with a preliminary desire, faith, that in simple language, I'm a college kid. Once upon a time, I was a college kid. And I had these three things. There's a higher reality. That's what I called it. There's something beyond all this stuff. Fundamentally, it exists. Next, what it is, I don't know. It's good to know you don't know. And the third was, I want to know. That's all. That's how bhakti. That's the seat from which the association of devotees is received. So now we'll go to your question. How to improve the quality by chanting. It's the how to. And it's the desire, the preliminary desire to, and then the association of devotees. So what do you do when you have sadhu sangha? What do? You do what sadhus do. That's what you do. And you with sadhus that are into it. They're on a trajectory of not just chanting, but chanting in a deeper, more absorbed quality way. They may not be there yet, that's okay. They're in that, moving in that direction, because that's what's inside, that's what's coming out. What's inside comes out. So associate with those devotees. There are such devotees. Find such devotees. Now I heard, a little bird told me, can I say? You got help by Shamsundar. Your chanting has been helped by Shamsundar, because he's one such devotee. Is it true or not true? Yes. So there's the answer to your question. Sadhu Sangha. Now he's not, Bhava Bhakta or Prema Bhakta, but he has deep faith, and he's tasting it, and he's sharing it, and growing it, and that's what you need to do. Not just him, but persons in that category. What do you think? Makes sense?
I mean, it's.
I want to hear the yeah, but.
Yeah, there is a lot of help, but it's not still kicking it, Maharaj.
That's okay. Be patient and be perseverant. We heard it. Let me do a little quiz question. Patanjali, remember? Said there's 3 features, 3 characteristics of practice. You're doing practice. but you're not there yet. 1, every day. 2, over a prolonged period of time. 3, satkara or adhara. Read Nectar of Instruction, text number 7. Read it again and again and again and practice it. And if you're not there yet, welcome to the club. Lots of us aren't there yet. And it's happening slowly. Welcome to that club too. Now what? Keep practicing in good association. It's the same answer. And you then next question, how long? However long it takes, that's how long. I'm committed. I can't hurry Krishna, but I can hurry Krishna. What do you think? Yeah, but. So being enthusiastic, okay, let's go Rupa Goswami. Utsahan. Nishayat. Dhairyat. You know the verse?
Yes.
Yes. That's what you do. Don't give me a yabat to Rupa Goswami, please. You just do it. However long it takes, that's how long. In good association, sadhu sangha. And you practice and you practice.
Okay, Maharaj.
Okay. I see that it's 12 o'clock. You see, we have somebody eager. Last question. You have the last question.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So my question is about the reason why King Bharat fell down. I mean, I think you explained, but I could not grasp properly.
It doesn't say what, what specific offense. It just, by reasoning, this is our acharyas, if I'm not mistaken, it's Jiva Goswami in his Bhakti Sandarbha, says, to say it was due to his past activities, it's not fruitive activities, it's offense. Because fruitive activities can't counteract the bhava bhakti, but offense can. So, therefore, his fall from bhava bhakti was due to a past offense that had yet, there was just in the warehouse, in the aparadha karma zone, and it was still there. And he still had such a tendency, and it came out. And it came out specifically, the language, read it again, Bhakti Sandarbha describes, it came out in the form of a deer. That tendency came out in the form of a deer, manifests that desire. And he became absorbed in his desire, which was reaction to his offense. Doesn't say what offense.
So Guru Maharaj, what I understand that
It looks like technology is not cooperating with you, so you're finished.
Like the sinful.
No. We're not going to go through that one more time, but not after that.
Sure.
Okay?
So like the sinful reactions, the prarabdha and...
It's not sinful reaction.
No, I understand that. Like the prarabdha and aprarabdha sinful activities, they're like prarabdha and aprarabdha offenses as well?
You're juggling, you're inventing language that's not there. Sorry. Nice try. You go back and read, I suggest you read Bhakti Sandarbha. It's not in Madhurya Kadambini. It's in Bhakti Sandarbha. And it's a question people ask. I've been asked this question, and there's an answer. It's an offense. It's not in the category of sinful, it's offense. Sin and offense are two different categories. Isn't it? The fruits of sinful activity, fruits of pious activity, fruits of bhakti properly performed, and offense. It's in a different box or category. It doesn't say what offense. It's a more difficult stain to remove than sin. So don't lump them, please. Because that's a mistake. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hare Krishna. So we'll now do the facilitated review of chapters 1 and 2 of Madhurya Kadambini. So those who want to stick around, if you want to take a stretch, walk around, because probably I noticed that the energy in the room was a little tired. So if you want to get up, walk around, and come back here, we'll get started in just a couple of minutes. Hare Krishna.
Please be situated in the poetry free